Hey folks, welcome back to yet another Rotten Reelz Reviews audio review. We are up to number 15. Yay! Yeah, I don't know if any of you give a crap. Well, given it is Friday the 13th, and I always make a huge production, and I have whatever stills offhand, get a little screen capture, and giving you all a happy Friday the 13th, and referenced here or there, but this is actually an old gag between a buddy of mine and I. We used to always just kind of like veg out and watch a whole bunch of the Friday the 13th movies. But I thought of something, I just noticed this recently. Something has been missing, something vital. You see, long before the resurrections, the zombification, the unexplained plot holes and inconsistency, hell, even before the potato sack days, Jason was a little deformed boy who was mocked and picked on by the kids of the camp. His mother, Pamela, was the cook at Camp Crystal Lake, and his father was nowhere to be found. Then one day, little Jason was out in the lake, and he up and drowned. Say, you don't think there might be any repercussions in that, do you? This is the original 1980 Friday the 13th. Now, fresh off of Here Comes the Tigers and Manny's Orphans, director and producer Sean Cunningham, and you may have heard some of his work from production and directing. The Last House on the Left, The Case of the Full Moon Murders, Here Come the Tigers, Manny Orphans, The New Kids, House 2, The Second Story, Deep Star 6, The Horror Story show, and Terminal Invasion, as well as writer Victor Miller, The Black Pearl, Manny's Orphans, Friday the 13th, A Stranger is Watching, Another World, Guiding Light, and All My Children are basically trying to peddle Manny's Orphans and just simply give it its due, which, doesn't always happen as easily. So, again, there's also no guarantee if whether or not it's going to be a hit, and the residual checks will start happening. So what do? Well, you hook up with FX and special FX makeup artist, stuntman, and actor guru Tom Savini. Yes, Tom Savini, who brought you things like Dead of Night, Martin, Dawn of the Dead, Maniac, Eyes of a Stranger, The Burning, The Prowling, Nightmare, Midnight, Day of the Dead, and hell, even Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. So fresh off of this was just catching right at the tail end of Martin, and he had just finished Maniac in New York. He hooks up with Cunningham and Victor Miller and tells them, you can probably throw together a slasher film. The biggest thing you need is the tricked out weapons props, a few fresh faces to be butchered, and lots of 50-gallon drums made of Caro syrup. So in the summer of 1979, with gore gags planned and plenty of dribbly blood at the ready, our cast and crew set off to make some records. Well, okay, they didn't actually know that a $500,000 budgeted slasher film was going to launch several sequels, give Paramount Pictures a substantial paycheck for what was barely put into it, and let alone have a clue that it would be beloved by multiple generations. So, you know the story. The kids go off to the camp after this camp in question's had horrible aspects. Somebody's poisoned the water one time. Kids were brutally murdered another time. The camp was burnt at another standing. But hey, they're young, they don't have any direction, and they really want to desperately be killed off. Now, as we know, none of these horror films have any talent put in it whatsoever. Except maybe Betsy Palmer of Mr. Roberts and I've Got a Secret. I don't know, the son of Bing Crosby. One Harry Crosby from The Private History of a Campaign That Failed, or Riding the Pony Express. This Adriana King, who, was in Hair at the Wind, Between the Lines, Saturday Night Fever, Hair, what's it in Gilbert Grape, and this other putz who will clearly never be useful in any way, shape, or form. This what was it, Kevin Bacon. Yeah, I don't really see this swarmy kid going anywhere. Oh wait, yeah, he's been in more than 82 different films that have all had variant successes. Television series, anything at all? No? You need some help with it? He's got a frickin' game, for God's sakes. Yeah, 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. Surely you've heard this gag. This is a guy who has worked with so many different people, from anything from Wild Things, Stir of Echoes, Hollow Man, Mystic River. We can go further back. Apollo 13, Murder in the Furs, A Few Good Men, The River Wild. Hey, come to think of it, Yeah, No, the way I'm seeing it, Adriana King starred with John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. John Travolta starred with Jamie Lee Curtis in Perfect, and Jamie Lee Curtis starred with Kevin Bacon in Queen's Logic. Damn it, I am good. Oh, yeah, she also starred with him in Friday the 13th. Huh. I could have done that all long ago. Huh. Oh, well. At any rate. So, the general gist of this. The group of young counselors are getting ready to become lead campers, and all they have to do is help and assist and clean up. Maybe just in general, beat the camp back to shape. With encountering a few snakes here and there, target arrow practices are just a little bit torn up, and just in general try to get the camp back up on its feet. That being said, of course, someone doesn't appear to be happy what's going on in the camp and plans on removing those counselors. As the bodies start to fall to the ground of the camp, you realize that no one is truly safe. For they were warned, they were doomed. And being it's Friday the 13th, little Jason Voorhees' birthday, nothing will save them. Boy, I hope I plugged that well enough. Now, for me, and I know it's a horrible staple, but honestly, this feels where it originated, is always going to be, without a shadow of doubt, Walt Gorney's portrayal of Crazy Ralph. Now, Crazy Ralph, and again, it's my favorite standing on it, it's always the wizened old guy who gives you the John Carradine creeper expression and tells you you're all doomed, you're all gonna die, we mustn't disturb the spirits, you must not read from the book. All these facets come into play. You think just once, if they just kind of wandered up and said, hey, the place you're going to, a lot of bad shit happened over the decades, and did you hang on, I've got more than a few newspaper clippings to back this up. You may want to consider just find something else to do. But no, they never do that. Instead, they give them the creeper eye, tell them in this weird tone that you're all doomed, and nobody listens. Now, maybe it's just me, maybe I'm thinking out loud, but yeah, I would skip doing that, because it never pans out well. The music aspect of it, and of how weird a franchise this film falls under, is all the folks directly linked to it, whether in front of the camera or behind the camera, they have some credit that they have to admit to because of Friday the 13th. Case in point, the assistant producer, and I believe he was also the he was the associate producer on this, Steve Miner is a great example of that, who later went on to direct Friday the 13th Part 2 and Part 3, and was also involved in a couple of directing Halloween 2, as well as Halloween 2 H2O 20 years later. Yeah, I know. These are all vital and important things for you to know. He's also the director of Lake Placid, who I believe Sean Cunningham helped produce, and unfortunately had to direct the remake of reimagining of Day of the Dead, which, yeah, it was a pile of crap. I won't lie. I won't hide I don't have any ambivalence about it. There's just seething hatred. Steve Meyer is also responsible for things like House and Warlock. So, yeah, that was kind of cool. Another interesting factor, and yeah, I'm just going to keep throwing these at you. The composer for this particular series, Harry Manfredini, has been... my God, this poor man has been busy from just the pantheon of horror alone. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. So, from anything from the original startup of... sorry, having a little bit of babble there. Anything from the original Friday the 13th, and having work on at least the original, 6-7 films. He also had worked on Swamp Thing with Wes Craven, where When the Raven Flies, for some reason, and he did a lot of the composer work for House 2, Deep Star 6. What's absolutely funny is these all link together. It's like this gathering of men just simply did not want to stop working with each other. And that's the part that I always found funny. And again, Manfredini has been doing so many different horror films and various action films as well. It's just kind of mind-boggling. I mean, like Iron Eagle 3, Angel of Death, The Unfortunate Kickboxer 3, The Art of War. But then he gets into goofier stuff like My Boyfriend's Back, or Time Master, or Wish Master, The Omega Code. Basically, he's just cashing the checks, but he's still producing this gorgeous music. And I always found that fascinating. It's like, wow, these guys really never have been without work. Now, the weirdest part, though, I'm going to throw this curveball at you, so just accept it. For some reason, Harry Manfredini has been doing a lot of music for the 1313 softcore gay horror franchise that David Ducato has been creating. David Ducato is the director of things like Creepazoid, Sorority, Babes, and the Slime Ball, Bolorama, Nightmare Sisters, The Puppet Master 3, Toulon's Revenge. He's actually done a successful amount of those, and a fair amount of be considered as Jiggly Girl gore fests, or kind of a sci-fi fantasy aspect, But what has been hilarious over the last, is the best way to describe this too, over the last, 8 years now, he has been doing the 1313 films, where he's just literally churning them out left and right, and then the wacky aspect of putting an exclamation point, a question mark, and another exclamation point over wacky stuff like a talking cat, a talking pony, an Easter bunny puppy, my stepbrother's a vampire, derp derp derp. Yeah, you get the point. Meanwhile, Harry Manfredini has been producing all the music for that, as well as doing his own composure. So yes, I have gotten us back to Friday the 13th in spite of my rambling. Now, with the further aspect of, we have your cliche characters, we have your standing of Jack, that nice warm-hearted guy who's with his girl, we've got little Annie, who may or may not make it, we have Marcy, Bill, Brenda, Ned, and of course the gentleman who purchased said Crystal Lake Camp, Steve Christie, who was apparently the only one worthy of a last name. Yeah. So folks just kind of disappearing, and they're making viable excuses like, oh, maybe they're off doing this. What? This couple seems to be disappeared? Well, they're probably up finding a bunk and, scrogging away, which, makes sense. Not a whole lot for you to do at a camp other than the initial work, and seeing there's no kids you have to watch, yeah, blaze it up, fool around, have some beer, whatever, hits your fascination. But that being said, people seem to start disappearing left and right. And finally, we get down to little Adriana King. Oh, spoilers. Yeah, you've had some time to watch this frickin' movie. Who runs into Mrs. Pamela Voorhees, who informs little Adriana King, or Alice, that today is her son's birthday, and starts staring off at things. She goes from being this really warm, pleasant woman to almost blatantly psychotic. I mean, Betsy Palmer's performance in this is genuinely creepy. It still curls my blood. I've seen this movie multiple times. You know, I'm aware of all the trivia and whatnot aspect, but again, still, this woman's performance is genuinely creepy. And what's so funny is they actually filmed this in Camp Nobi Boscoa, which is still in operation. It actually has a wall of Friday the 13th paraphernalia to honor the fact that the movie was set there. So it's actually kind of cool. Let's see, what other bits of trivia can I give you? The snake in question that gets in the cabin was not actually part of the script. It was an idea that Tom Savini had as an experience of his own cabin during filming. The snake scene was real, so yeah, that is technically an on-screen death, and shame, shame, and shame. Now, Victor Miller, the writer in question, admits that he was purposely writing off the success of John Carpenter's Halloween, which is not the only slasher film of the latter 70s, but is one of the most recognizable ones. I think that was a big factor of that. With a budget of $550,000, this film cleared over $39,750,000. Well, I'd say that was a hell of a return on a minor investment. Yeah. So, with that in mind, the music aspect is like Tom Savini was like one of the first crew members that was on board with the film because the producers loved his effects from Dawn of the Dead. So really wasn't that real difficult. Most of the location and set were already there. In fact, the only thing they had to build was an impromptu bathroom set for some of the darker scenes and being able to move in with some handheld and some dolly. So yeah, that was actually kind of cool. But yeah, let's see. What kind of trivia can we give you? Well, the age-old cliche, Betsy Palmer only initially starred in this, quote, piece of shit movie because she needed money for a car. Which I was sort of like, okay. Well. Only to find out that the, quote, piece of shit movie just took off. I mean, damn. It took off. Having multiple sequels attached to it and a couple of remakes. Yeah, that is including that Friday the 13th is up for a 2017 remake or reboot, reimagining, bunch of re-res. Yeah, I know. Well, what can you do? It is beloved, and perhaps it will be a vast improvement over the latter one that we've had not too long ago that I had to sit through, and everyone was insistent, you gotta review it. And I'm just sitting there going, boy, I'm really glad I was not allowed to record my viewing. And again, folks, if you have anything that I should be watching, anything I should be reviewing, any games I should be playing, hey, you know what? Hit me up. Throw something in the comments. Catch me on Facebook. I am abound. I will leave all those damn plugs available, so feel free to get me up, hit me back. And, yeah, I'm done. Have a good one. And, happy Friday the 13th.